Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to you live in Technicolor from the beautiful Hollywood Hills, California. The show where the total retail price of their advice is $0. This is Timelines Talks! Featuring guest musical performers, Metallica frontman, oh my, it's Stars and Garters. Also featuring, hey buddy, you're a tier high. Look out, it's Automaton 2000. And now, from Spreadsheet City, here's your host, Captain Idol.
10 months ago, the crew of Voyager was pulled into the Delta Quadrant by an entity known as the Caretaker.
A, the caregiver trait, or B, maybe some med, but oh, no, not during my caregiver mega.
When he died, Voyager's best chance of getting
Medical, or engineering, or maybe some science.
died with him. But he revealed one hopeful possibility.
There is another like me. She left hundreds of years ago, but she's out there somewhere.
Yes, 1 week later, we have returned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And I need to get rid of something on the screen. There we go. Yes, we are back, and we are joined, as always, by Automaton 2000. We have Stars and Garters, and for the first time, properly on the stream, like we always wanted, Big McLargeHuge. Welcome, guys.
Oh man,
Get his name right.
all right. Well, I mean, if you're playing the drinking game, then don't take a shot just yet. They got my name right so far.
Welcome, guys. Okay, welcome everyone. We are here in our post-Reno society. We have escaped World War Suspiria, and all our engineering, medical worries are over. We are back for another week, and hopefully everything is great. And we have a lot more than we thought we were going to have to talk about this week. Before I do so, I just want to do a couple of quick plugs. We now have a podcast, which is basically this show, but in audio form. So if you can't catch up with this show, or you know any friends that can't, please send them that way to the podcast. We also have the YouTube channel for people that want to catch up later. We also have an email now. So if you have any questions and you can't get to us on the forums or on Discord, email us at timelinestalks@gmail.com. After the show today, we've got a very special section which Auto, Stars and Big have done called Art Chat, which they will be talking about the art of the show. So that should be quite a good one. Something fun to watch a little bit after this. Right, where shall we start, guys? Where do we start this week? Who wants to take it away?
First up, I have to ask, we have an electronic mail.
We have, oh yeah, did I not? We have email.
We have electronic
We have
mail.
pigeons. We've got
Featuring
snail
crap.
mail.
Or you can just throw rocks at our windows if we're not listening.
Yeah, that's another option.
Yeah, okay. Let's start. First off,
hold
how
on
are
now.
you guys? Okay, here we go.
We have had so freaking many errors and big blue screen before we started. My graphic driver crashed, and then my internet router went out, and so with 18 seconds before we came live, everyone got on the same page. So
We
if
think it's
something
working.
happens, if I
assure you
explode,
it was hilarious to watch.
We were like, people saying, you've got special guests. I'm like, yeah, kind of, maybe, if it works. I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of Big.
Yeah, no. What we're saying is everything is going to be great. It's going to work flawlessly, smoothly from here on in, because we have faith of the heart.
No, another day.
Like you say, drunk stream. We'll do
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
do
Well,
it.
I'm halfway there, guys. Come on, keep up.
We'll get Auto to do some of the Klingon drinking songs. There's enough musical material, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's talk. Go on. What you got?
we gotta start because my computer will explode if we don't start with that segment. So maybe we should do that. Yeah.
Which one's that?
The one that involves my computer.
Shall we bring that up?
Yeah.
Let me find.
Actually, let me.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
We are pretty ready.
So what do we got here?
Okay.
Talk us through Auto.
Yeah. So someone was asking on Discord because we have this skirmish coming up. This will be the first skirmish post speed up and auto battle and all that stuff. That one on the same page. So let me share my screen. Someone was asking. Please work. Please don't crash. Someone was asking if we can show the new auto battle stuff. And so, has it popped up?
It has, but we got Skype on top.
Oh dear.
Oh,
sorry. Let me check. Make sure that the stream is...
Ooh la la.
Okay, we're on.
You can see the puppet strings.
There we go.
Yeah. Sorry. So I've set things up on this is Stars and Garter's account. He was gracious enough to let me in, and that is cadets. Okay, so let's run a couple of battles. Now, first of all, there are a few rules that you should be aware of when setting your crew specifically for auto battles. Number one is they activate left to right, including the ship abilities here. So like you see 7, Trevis, Granny Kess are all 8 seconds, so they would activate left to right. Rule number 2 is if you have one of these boosts active, for example, if Flotter, great art by the way, if Flotter is active with attack, then the next one will not activate while he's on unless he has a special ability. Rule number 3, and this one's pretty easy, if you have a trigger crew, for example, Mr. Barkley here is position only. So even though he initializes at 0 seconds, you won't see him pop up until position status is granted. And I think there's 1 or 2 other rules, but I kind of forget. So let's just start. Changes are already saved. I'll pick a level 8 ship, so hopefully I don't get blown up before we can showcase this stuff.
I make promises. I do not pay attention to Arena.
So we'll skip the intro.
One thing that you didn't make necessarily clear is that, yes, they activate left to right unless someone in a slot further to the right has a quicker activate time.
That's right. So, yeah, initialization takes precedent over everything else. So you can see even with Grandma Kess and 3-star Barkley, we still crush. Okay. We'll load up 1 or 2 more here. I'll try to pick someone that doesn't have instant damage to blow me to Kingdom Come. Yeah, so we'll turn this on right away. You see Barkley doesn't activate even though he can. We have to wait for the position trigger. Once that hits, Mr. Barkley will activate. And you see Granny Kess doesn't use her ability because there's already an attack ability active. So that is the TLDR for, I'm sure you guys will have plenty of time this weekend to set that up. Now, the other big important news that I guess we led with, you probably got this message in your inbox, the Pride 2020 crew giveaway and care package. So for any of us who have recently ranted about skill sets, we have Medic Reno to help prop that up. So you go over to the time portal. By the way, there is an issue if you claim, what are they called, supply kits from the inbox. They will activate even though you have to restart to see it. But in the time portal, it is safe to go ahead and claim those items. So you get voyage tokens, supply kits, and chronotons. Actually, before I grab her, let me make sure you have some crew slots open, Stars. Oh, you have 4 slots open. Now, what I like to do is fill it right up to the max, that when you get new voyage crew, you can easily discard them or whatnot from there. So let's fill you up to 270. Of course, I got to start with my buddy, Automaton 3947. Well,
I think I may have made a previous calculation.
He's got a lot of play on our show. Actually, hold on. Now,
Which
this
show?
is a caregiver mega. Now, one would assume you need as many caregivers as you can get.
Is it really?
So,
could have fooled me.
Tell you what, let's do a warp theorist as well. And actually, now it used to cost Dill to revive too many crew, but luckily they changed that. So this is basically, we're playing with house money at this point. And I'm sorry, we're full. Well, hold on.
Money, huh?
Before we grab Reno,
But think of all the poor shuttle refreshes.
I need to make a little
miracles
space.
I want to do.
Let me freeze a few crew for you. I'm sorry. I can't hear you, Stars. I'm sharing my screen. The audio's not coming through. We'll have to figure that out later. So I'll tell you what. I'll make a little space. That's fine.
Excuse you.
Who else can we get rid of? Q. No, Q is like a tier 8 or something, right?
Nah, you don't.
I don't think you need. Vrenak, he's a diplomat, but I don't think you really want to add stars to him. Oh, Nyota, she's like tier 9 or something too. That's definitely.
You have like 3 minutes to fix this.
Oh, you get 4 more Lucille Davenports from the collection, so you definitely don't need her. All right, so we should have.
I kind of do.
We should have a space to claim. Let's go ahead and claim Miss Medic Reno. She looks so happy to join your crew.
Can't hurt you.
While I'm here, actually, you were telling me that you had to work late. You couldn't catch the end of the event. So let's see if we can get you a Dodge while we're here. That's definitely not Dodge.
I was saving that dilithium for recaps.
A double Thullion. Oh, this is not going well.
Thanks.
Okay.
I love it.
You don't need those. Now, Medic Reno, by the way, is such a great crew. Med-Eng, very rare combination. Behold, no. We'll grab some citations for her. Now, you could wait for the honor sale, but that would not be, that's sort of a sucker's bet. So let's buy some citations, and we'll just go ahead. Ooh, twice the rewards.
Do you want to buy some like purple citations while you're at it? Come on, what's for his house money?
Well, it ain't my account. So let's fuse her up right away.
This is watching a train wreck in real time. My God.
A train wreck has a lot less loss of life.
No, I'm pretty sure customer support will undo this later, right? You don't have to worry about that. They're here to save our.
They have nothing else to do, I'm sure.
Of course.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. So you saw the speed up. You saw a great crew in Jet Reno. If you want to throw some citations on her, be my guest, especially on someone else's account. So I think that's pretty much what we have.
You guys invited me to be on this. I didn't know I was going to be on for a snuff film.
Actually, the secret sauce is I changed the password actually after he gave it to me, so he can't kick me off. Okay, so
I'm gonna.
Let's all right. I think we're done with that. Let's go ahead and turn off screen share.
I can't fucking.
Anyway, shall we move on? The next.
Yes, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Can we move on?
Are you right there, Stars? It's okay. He's done you a favor.
Hey, Reno's a good card, man.
Yeah, it's worth every sight you can
spend
spend
on laying
it.
around.
So yes, the news is that we have Medic Reno giveaway for free. So if you have not claimed it, go to the time portal as auto shared, and you can claim your own Medic Reno for your own. And to be honest, I think that is a great thing for the game. I think for a lot of players, especially those who sort of tantalizingly see it in the Tuesday packs, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, this is a top tier card to get. You know, and it's definitely something everyone should have on their rosters. Did I get her stats? Let's have a quick look at her stats, because I don't think we actually talked about her on the show. I don't think we had a show when she was released, did we? I can't remember.
No.
If Automaton keeps on the way going, we're not going to have a show for much longer.
See, this is why we got big in now, because if you're on your way out, then, you know.
I'll be on my way out, and Automaton will be joining me in the fucking grave.
Woo!
Swear job.
Spicy.
Oh, yeah, Swear jar, we're up to 50 cents.
Yeah, right.
Now, actually, before we get too far into this is a top 10 anime redemption arc, because last week, when we dumped all over the bad deals and the Suspiria skill set, they turn around, they give us another care package. They give us a pretty great Doc Van Gogh and the event crew. Free Jet Reno, obviously, is the headliner. So well done to Wicked Realm Games for... I'm assuming this was all done on a dime. They said, all right, the forums are complaining. Hit the emergency button. Jet Reno, like, descends from the ceiling or something. So
Not enough management.
Yeah. There's like 10 of them up there if they keep hitting the button. They keep coming
Hey,
out.
if someone wants a specific skill set, just send me a note. I'll write up the rant, and next week we'll have it. So
We'll get it on log.
Well, I don't think it's overstating it to say that Medic Reno is basically the best giveaway crew the game has ever gifted to the players. And I don't even think there's that much competition.
Yeah, because there was there's been Will Scarlet, Survivor's Cut, good, but I don't think anywhere near quite this. Solar Sail Cisco, again, a good card, but nowhere near this. And Mambo Picard, who was a lot better when he came out, and now he's kind of had his shine stolen. But yeah, no, I don't think it would be a stretch to say that she's probably the best giveaway we've ever had.
I mean, also the Mirror Picard to touch a nerve.
let's not go down that road. We're happy for Jet Reno, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
look forward to seeing her in the campaign next month as well.
So I'll shout out.
Oh, hang on. I think we lost
You'll
also.
shout
I think
out.
that is the best face to freeze on. Look at that.
Oh, man. See, now what you don't realize is that the bomb I set in his house has just exploded.
Oh.
Karma.
Don't worry, I made sure that his wife was outside of the house.
Okay, well that's good. That's considerate of you, Stars. Thank you.
Yeah,
for that.
no, I think it's worthwhile compensatory damages.
Next week will be in memoriam Automaton 2000. So Jet Reno, give it away for free. I think I personally think it's a very good thing for everyone, and it's a nice show of also for representation, which they kind of put in with Lenara Khan. There were a few not necessarily complaints, but concerns on how that was portrayed. So I think this is also an additional little we do care package, and that's quite nice to sort of for that side of things to show that there is some support for that culture and that diversity.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a case of you could have made way worse choices. This is anyone who could have. Well, yeah. So in the case of there would have been Mycelio Culber and Mira Stamets. There's some kind of okayish disco crew, but they clearly wanted to be look, this is our commitment. Here is one of the best crew we can possibly give you. Yeah. And I'm especially happy about it because when that first pack with her came out, I chased her. I chased her for the tune of the rest of my leap year deal, and I felt bad.
Oh, hang on.
I got 3 out of 5 Amelia Earhart, dick in the hand.
Did you hit me with a sniper rifle? Is this payback or is this karma?
From what he was explaining, it was some kind of explosive, I believe.
Some kind of tri-cobalt device.
Is this now the clone of Automaton 2000 we see before us?
From beyond the grave.
Yes. Mycelial auto.
By the way, I saw someone in chat was like, "This isn't funny. He destroyed his roster." Guys, calm down. It was a bit. I paid for the dilithium. We're friends. We're gonna hold hands, take a walk after the stream. Don't worry about it.
I'll stab him in the back and it'll be fine.
It's a love-hate. We'll work on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it. But yeah, as I was saying, I chased her to the tune of 10k deal. I got 3 copies of a card that I didn't really want but is decent, which should kind of show how much I wanted her, especially because I really love the character in the show, and to just have one just that's a nice sort of thing. And it's I understand that people might be a little bit frustrated because maybe they chased her and were a bit more successful and then invested in her, which, fair dues, but the fact of the matter is a case of what happens on your roster is not what happens on everyone's roster. Not everyone is quite that lucky. And for people who really want the character, this is an amazing opportunity. And hey, there are way worse cards that you could dupe. Way worse cards.
As someone that hates having every dupe in my roster, there are some I can't throw out, and she's one of them. And I have her, she's star number 6. And, it's from my side of things, yeah, okay. When I saw it, I was like, you what? But then I realized, actually, this is going to be good. In the long run, I'll have a card that I can actually use rather than, say, a dupe of someone worse that I'll just go 550 on her. So, there is some good out of everything. There's a silver lining everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of crew that have med and engineering as their top 2 skills being as small as it is, I mean, both of those copies of Jet Reno will be on med-eng voyages forever.
Yeah, and I think by the time that you see her crowded out of voyages, this show will be, will be 8 seasons into Discovery, 20 seasons of Picard, 3 other shows we can't name.
Yeah,
and 35 clones of Automaton into the show, right?
Yeah, and 4 of us will have hair by then, so we'll really be pretty
You'll
old.
be slowly stealing it from my scalp. Like every week, you'll just see it slowly going. Boop.
Well, as the joke I didn't get to make because of the audio issues before the show, what I lack in follicle length, I make up for just in sheer wattage.
That's true. That's like EMH levels of shine.
Yeah, I've always got a good idea. Right?
You'll have to give us some tips on that. I'll just let us know what I can do to increase my radiance.
Okay, so Jet Reno.
Yes.
From the Tenef Fleet, Jorgamund had a question before about collections. He said, "You guys don't talk enough about collections." So she has 2 collections, including Jury Rigger. And last time we had this sort of big giveaway 5-star with Jury Rigger that was Determined Janeway. She also came in, I think it was the same event, or the same mega with the 2-star, the Injured Taurus. So we got double Jury Rigger. And that was at a time where a lot of players were right at 23, 24, just about to finish that last Threshold collection. So I went back and checked, and the next available Jury Rigger after her was 4 months later when we got Runaway Poe and that Discovery Mega. So she's obviously great stats-wise. And if you get that little cherry on top collection bonus, that will basically rent you the next Threshold reward from Jury Rigger for the next 4, 6, 8 months until they add more available crews. So that's always nice to pick up. And then for the VIP Zero crowd, I'm hoping you guys already shouted them out already. We have in-game 17 crew with Eng and Med, 17 golds. One of them is, of course, Caretaker from Gauntlet, 8 from events, and 8 of them are only from 6-packs. So if you are VIP Zero, or you just have a good head on your shoulders and you don't pull 6-packs, you're going to be missing a lot of the powerhouses. In fact, all 3 of the crew with Eng and Med as their top 2 skills were from 6-packs, including Jet Reno. So in terms of skill set, I mean, yeah, this is a huge get. You had Mambo, Picard, and Kirk with Gauntlet or Arena or whatever, but for skill set for Voyage Power, she sets the bar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also sort of interesting to see her premiering right alongside, I know this is probably jumping ahead a little bit, but right alongside Dr. Van Gogh, who for some people is a less appetizing proposition just because it's a slightly less skill order. But the fact of the matter is, like, you need to cultivate that skill set wherever you can get it. And just because you're not the top of that pile doesn't mean that you shouldn't still shoot for it. Like, the fact of the matter is, I will take a mid-roster Eng-Med crew over most top-tier, like, Command Dip states. I know, also, that you're madly in love with Koloff, but I think I would probably pass over him for even a half-decent Eng-Med crew in a buck gold, like, all things told.
Yeah. Shall we... Anything more to say on Reno before we move on?
I love her. There we go. The segment's done.
Since you so handily mentioned Dr. Van Gogh, I had to think about it then. I've got Reno on the brain. That's how it gets into you. Since we were talking about Dr. Van Gogh, let's start with our event piece this week. Hotly speculated crew that we thought was going to come for this mega based on the episode, because there was a choice of Grand Marquess or Dr. Van Gogh, really, or Birthing Kess, which we'll see. But yes, Dr. Van Gogh, legendary engineering psi medical, which was not what I think anyone was thinking was going to be the skill order for him. And it's a bit of a bizarre combination in my eyes, but it's unexpected, which is quite refreshing.
Yeah, no, it's not often on the show that we get outright surprised in a way that we like. Like, last week obviously was a bit of an unpleasant surprise, but we grew and we lived and we got past it. But this was a bit of a humdinger because we've been sort of talking about it and thinking about, well, is this like how does this going to stack up in the echelons? Like, he's no White Rabbit, but he's no Jet Reno. He falls somewhere in the between. And I was talking to these fine gentlemen and Otto in our Discord about how we want to sort of conceptualize a kind of crew like this. And it's a case of, do you want to think of him as a mid-range Eng-Med crew? Or do you want to think of him as a Eng Psi Voyager with a pretty good rank with probably the best tertiary that you could have? You know, it's a case of how you think about this will change. How you think about things will change how you think about things. Crazy as a concept. But it's a case of you don't always have to look at it in a binary way. Like, God knows with the amount of spreadsheets available for this game, all you have to do is toggle a filter or look at a slightly different skill order, and suddenly things completely change.
And No Name Namer from chat pointed out he is also the number 4 engineering medical, despite them being his secondary and tertiary, especially for voyages. And he's also a factor in 2 collections. Now, they're quite common collections, however, with the expansion into Diplomat and Vulcan collections, I think it was pretty safe to say that might be in our futures.
Well, and also just to jump in, how you're looking at it, whether it's a Eng Psi crew or an Eng Med crew, I mean, I think the amount of Eng Med that we're still highlighting is pretty lacking. You're still looking at it as an Eng Med crew primarily, because you can find Eng Psi in a lot of different places, a lot of different areas. But so any amount of Eng Med doesn't really, I mean, it matters how much their whole total is, but any amount of Eng Med is still going to be useful for just about anybody's roster.
Yeah, and in fact, if you see the voyage number 4 Eng Med, that means the voyage pair, meaning the amount of engineering and medical that they add. So that's sort of irrespective of their overall score, which, by the way, he sits 1 rank underneath Leonardo da Vinci, which everyone should know. He's been around for 3 years. He was, I think, the very first Eng Med Gold in the game. So he's been sort of the prototype, the one that everyone looks to. So they have essentially identical scores, but he actually has, if I can find the list here, he has far more Eng Med combined, which, okay, the pairs are a tricky thing, because for a common set, it may not matter because you can grab it from primary, tertiary, whatever. Eng Med is so rare that the voyage pair really does matter how much absolute of that stack can a crew add to your voyage. So he laps the field for anyone who doesn't have that as a primary, secondary, and his score is plenty good. I mean, of course, power creep affects everyone, but if I'm sure you're still running Leonardo da Vinci, people, you know, still look up to him. Traits are part of the equation there too, which Van Gogh does have pretty good traits. So from a lot of angles, pretty much every angle except just the raw voyage total, he's very good crew.
Yeah, and actually to cotton on to your point about traits, not to single you out, Big, but in the Discord you mentioned the name Loken, and Loken we were quite down on when he first came down because he was Eng primary, I think almost the exact same order. And the fact of the matter is...
The exact same order, yeah.
Yeah, he was the exact same order. So part of the reason we were so down on him is because his traits were trash. I think he had his racial trait, which was whatever the alien of the week that was, brutal, and I think maybe undercover operative, and we were looking at that and thinking, this is not good. But if you look at someone like Van Gogh, who is not only a variant of a main cast crew, who may be appearing in Picard, who may or not, but just these traits are a lot better than your standard human Starfleet Federation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that Loken's voyage total is significantly lower. So on top of any other drawbacks that he might have, he's just not bringing total numbers the way that Van Gogh or certainly like someone like Reno would be.
Now, those traits are not bad for events either. Innovator has had 1, Musician has had 1, Hologram has had 8, I think, which is the most for non-Discovery crew. Physician has had 2, I want to say, so they all had a little bit, and they're not so big that they can't have more. And him being sort of the black sheep Eng primary means that he ranks high among all of them except for Innovator, I think, which Loken and 1 or 2 others have great Eng. So any sort of medical focused traits that he has, he's going to knock it out of the park. I mean, Eng seats are rare, granted, but you only need 1, and his bonus, even at 1.5, is going to probably make him the preeminent name there.
Yeah, and it's sort of like if you think of how top 10 bases often look, it's like you often get maybe like 4 or 5 main cast crew, and then you get a lot of nobodies. And the fact of the matter is, like, while you can always chase that top 10 base, the fact of the matter is, unless that base is attached to a name that you recognize, it's going to fall out of favor. You're going to be, someone like acting Captain Jellicoe, for example. When he debuted, he was like Command Base 7. Now he's like in the 20s or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, you would not get much value out of that base unless it's because you use bases primarily for shuttles. And who gets factions? Not Jellicoe. You get people like the Doc get events. And that's simple fact of the matter. In this case of, for me also, this is a nice little thing because I've mentioned before, I love that little serotonin thing of just having the crew that is the only version of that character with that skill. The only Kira with Psi, the only Kirk with Psi. It just scratches something to know you have that edge. So even if you only get him at 1 out of 5 and put him at the back of your citation thing, it's a nice little secret weapon to have, I think.
Well, and Piggy... Oh, sorry.
Hey, you're the guest. I talk enough. Go.
Well, piggybacking on the idea about bases, about base being a top 10, well, that, especially when you're just talking about swapping out crew on a daily shuttle, it's like you're talking about a fraction of a percentage point at best in your success rate. Right? You might say the difference between dip number 2 and dip number 25 sounds like a lot, but when it's really, maybe 1% of each other or maybe 2% difference, it's really a marginal thing. So bases are just the smallest part of the puzzle when evaluating a crew.
Yeah. So that's a nice and long way of saying he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is going to be, can you get him? Because now we have and I think we've just lost Auto again, haven't we?
We have.
Now we have a skirmish event with the first skirmish event with the new Auto feature. Meaning we could do things 3 times as fast, kill things 3 times as fast, and get thrice the points. Which is going to be interesting to see where that 1/500 line is drawn and how much time you can spend click tap, essentially.
Well, see, here's the thing. It's like just because of the changes to the UI and the speed ups and all that, this was going to set a record for the highest VP total, no matter who the crew was.
Yes.
No matter what you could win. So the fact that there's going to be good crew on top of it, man, the numbers are going to be astronomical.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because it's a case of the stop point with skirmishes has never been chronotons, and it's going to be like that a little bit more now. But the fact of the matter is, what was stopping everyone from ranking top 1500 and skirmish is the fact that you just get bored.
Yeah.
You stop wanting to tap, and unless you want to delve into other methods, the fact of the matter is, how many times can you afford to just sit and tap 5 times, get that VP, hit your rewards? It's endurance. And the fact of the matter is, while I think that this is going to make a big difference in terms of VP totals and people, you're going to see the gulf between people who thresholds and then out, and then people who don't. You're going to see that probably widen a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that we got Auto back.
He's back.
This is the week, man. I'm telling you. If I drop out again, I'll just go watch from the chat because this is not a good week, man.
Yeah, not a good week for you.
We were just talking about the skirmish and how it's going to affect the overall scores.
We were talking about skirmish while you weren't here. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, skirmish is not my bag anyways.
So skirmish event wins. Yeah, right.
Well, piggybacking on what you were talking about, because yes, there's still going to be a lot of tapping and endurance, but I think it's going to be even a little bit more set and forget than, because before with your tapping, you did have to activate your crew in the right order and things like that. But with the auto, you're basically just tap, 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 and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's tap to skip the animation at the end. So it's just a recipe for big numbers.
Do you think we're going to get the same kind of finger callus we do from a galaxy? Just
Well, as long as you do some proper training, stretching, maybe get like an emery board, something like that. Just maybe get a manicure done before the skirmish starts. You got to cover all your bases before you get started.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I guess Big is covering our female representation this week. Is that right?
Well, I got the hair for it, so
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be interesting. It almost feels like it's a test run for Record Realms, where it's a case of, okay, we've implemented the change. This is the first skirmish since that change. They've seen all the data on Arena. How is this going to pan out in a real skirmish event with desirable crew? Not Captain Braxton, not First Officer Burnham, but still very desirable crew for the people who want them. And, the Doc's the most popular character on Voyager, so even on that basis alone, you're going to see some interest. But yeah, like I mentioned, it's going to be very interesting to see how sharp the divide is between people who threshold out and then what the VP gain is, because I don't feel like it's going to be as revolutionary as maybe people think we are. I think it's going to be a case of that gap is going to widen, but the same people are going to be putting in the effort, and it's just a case of the VP totals will change, but I don't think the rankings will massively change. Maybe I'm going to be completely wrong, but I would love to be wrong.
Yeah, I doubt that that many more people are going to get over their utter hatred of skirmishes just because of this. I think it's just going to make it so it'll be that much easier and quicker for them to get to the thresholds and get out. So you're going to see probably a ton of scoring on the first day or two, and then just the diehards will carry on after that.
Especially when they reach that threshold rank, when they'll get to that 350 and just think, do I want to? Can I?
Yeah.
I think it's going to turn more into factions where what typically rules faction scoring is how long it's been since the last faction, because now chronotons are a lot more of the logjam rather than time spent tapping. So yeah, if you have like this skirmish and then one again in 2 weeks, even a half skirmish, that one might be a little lower. But if you have 5-6 weeks to stock up chronotons, then I think that's when you really see the high scores.
Well, and that's another thing too, is the announcement coming out on Friday of what next week's crew is going to be. That could determine for a lot of people how much they want to commit right now. If it's a crew that looks like someone they really want, they may, keep some crons in the hopper just for next week.
I mean, this is going to be a cron sink regardless. If you've got 3 times the speed, you're going to be burning through it 3 times as fast. So with next week being a galaxy, people are going to be looking at thinking, what, do I want to save some of that back for next week? Do I want to go all in now?
Well, this whole 3-week stretch, and I mean, we don't know what the event after the mega is going to be. This is a big chronoton commitment for the next 3 weeks. So
absolutely,
people are going to have to be budgeting accordingly.
Galaxy skirmish, which is how many times? I don't know. Autumn, you might know how many times this has been done before. Galaxy's then a skirmish.
I don't think it's ever been done in this order before.
I don't know about order. I think there's been at least one Galaxy skirmish hybrid.
Yeah, this is sort of going to be an interesting thing, because I think like for people who are like free to play or who don't generally keep big chronoton banks around, this is going to be, get out while you still can. God knows, just don't stick around. But it's going to be a test of how long you bank your chronotons for. In the case of, some people are going to be keeping 20k, 30k. I personally keep 50k just because I like doing skirmishes. The rewards pay for themselves, but I can imagine that a higher echelons, people would just never spend a chronoton. I mean, obviously I imagine people were still going for a campaign, but you can get through a lot of, your daily play without using chronotons if you're smart with ad warps. And I'd be very interested. That's the survey I want to see. What kind of chronoton bank do you keep? That's the question to you, viewers. I know what it does. It's
not even saving. Like, I know a lot of our viewers are from Discord and forums, whatever. They're going to be a little more hardcore. They've been playing longer. So at a certain point, you run out of crew to level. There's nothing else you can do, whether you like it or not. You're just going to have this huge chronoton bang.
You can't run out of crew to level if you don't level your crew.
Yeah. I've got the sync up on that one.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing too, and is that with the speed ups now, is that I think it is going to make it more of a cron heavy thing, because you can churn through it so much faster that the diminishing returns of the loot boxes being, maybe 70% or 80% of your initial cron stake, if you keep churning that over and over and over again, it could really eat into your reserves more than you think.
Yeah, and it's not even the speed up too. The skipping the intro and outro animations is like the biggest part, because they used to give me time to tab out and talk with people or do something else or watch.
That's
18 James Bond movies. Yeah, it's done. So you're gonna bloodshot eyes and well, I will be, but
Would you even know that your house had been bombed? Would you even see stars sneaking in the back door?
No, as long as I have a solid internet connection, I'm good to go.
Sitting in a husk of a house is like,
well, clearly the solidity of your internet connection is an open question at the moment.
I'm being sabotaged here. It's not my fault. Look, I take it back. All right, I will go back. By the way, if we talk for another 4 hours, that's going to be too late for him to go and pull his crew out of the airlock.
Don't worry, it's fine.
Right, that's the challenge. I'll set a timer. Okay, anything more to say on Dr. Van Gogh?
Well, I do believe that you have to tell us a little bit more about him as a person, as a human being, as a man with so much to give.
I do.
Because we've been neglecting. Last week we had our Suspiria blowout, as it were.
Oh, we did.
Well, let's actually talk about the episode that this Mega's fucking themed about.
By the way, for this we were gonna have a toupee gag, but we'll save it for the next. We'll save it for the next.
We forgot. I'm going to be honest. It's been about 3 weeks since I watched the episode, and I've forgotten a lot of it already. Other than Grandma Kess and Kess birthing, he was there. He made the pod, and he was the doctor.
Oh yeah, so I was going to I had a secondary rant prepared. If we were going to have Granny Kess with engineering, by the way, they said she'd lost 98% of her memory engrams, and that's the woman who you're giving the plans to the biotemporal chamber to. She had secondary engineering. Okay, I was going to really go into it. So thank goodness.
No.
Thank goodness that they gave Van Gogh a little bit of engineering, or
Yeah, someone had
or a lot, as it
a lot.
Yeah.
One thing, it just makes me laugh and to say, right, we've finally got, and I always like to say, like you said before, we see a Picard variant with Med, we see a Riker variant with some, with engineering, and it's interesting to see a Doctor variant with engineering as the primary, which opens a few more doors for things like shuttles and events that he might count for. That's an interesting metric,
and it makes sense with the character. So.
We've done it, guys.
That's really what it all comes down to, isn't it?
We've reached the end game now.
Yeah. Shut it down.
Actually, we've reached before and after, not end game.
Oh.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm going.
All right. And just
I'm
cut
shutting
my
this
feet.
whole thing down.
Pretend like I crashed.
Yeah, shut this down.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about our other featured super rare crew this week. Kestra from... personally, my favourite episode, Nepenthe, the daughter of Troy and William Riker, the second child. Well, I'm not going to go into spoilers. We won't do that here. This is a safe place for anyone that hasn't watched Picard. But yeah, super rare Kestra, who sports a Sec and Dip 2-skiller, which is interesting. How do we feel about her for this event?
I like that you chose the word interesting there. Honestly, I'm gonna go out here and say that I'm probably gonna build her, infuse her, and I'm gonna be like, you know what? That's really good art. I feel like they could have justified some Med here because she had a very therapeutic counseling side into her, like her mother. And I think that would have been a nice little a little bit of Sec Med. That would have been cool. I kind of thought bow and arrow, but as it is, I'm probably just going to end up freezing her. And then if we get a Picard Mega in the future, that'd be a nice little thing for her to corner the milestone on, because that's still a very thin crew pool. But I don't think she's going to do a massive amount for other people. But honestly, she's there for the art, which some of the other crew also are just for the art this week.
Yeah, this one's for all the Princess Mononoke and Robin Hood crossover fans, right?
You can spot the dad right away from how many Disney princesses he knows,
Oh, we don't even want to start.
I'm glad I have boys.
So in terms of this week, she's nothing special for skirmishes. So if your roster's strong enough that you can just plug in a spot with whatever high bonus crew and use them, you have her, you have Suspiria. If you've been around, maybe you have Tholian. But I've noticed that a lot of crew lately are coming out with these 6-second duration abilities, and it seems like it's a little too short. Like, okay, if you blow everything up at 3 seconds, fine. That's probably half the people watching. But for people that actually need these crew for their arena abilities, it's very short. You really have to look, and especially with syncing things up with triggers and whatnot for the auto mode, you really want longer duration if you can. So you'll use her this week and never again on ships, I think.
Should you not already have Suspiria or Tholian from previous as well, of course. Anyone else got much to say about it? I mean, I find it unusual as well, because I don't know if this was ever clarified in the show. I did watch Nepenthe today, but it was she. Her surname intrigues me because it's Troy Riker. Is that a Betazoid tradition? I can't remember. Because Luaxana was Luaxana Troy. She wasn't whatever she was before, Troy.
I do believe that this came up in Nemesis, didn't they?
Did it?
Picard calls Riker Mr. Troy. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that Betazoid culture is very matriarchal, and therefore you take that. You are Troy Riker, not Riker Troy.
I feel like if he's willing to strip naked and do the whole thing, with Troy's mom standing right there watching the procession, as it were, then he's probably okay with taking the name or the hyphen.
Yeah, I mean, if he had to be Will Bunnycorn for the rest of his life, I think he bites that bullet. Yeah.
Shall we have? Sorry, go on, please.
I was just gonna say, she's probably the least exciting crew from this episode. They were all kind of hopes about Pizza Riker, which we'll get into. And I'm quite excited to see the Troy from this episode, just because I think that this was to think back to the episode. This episode was Troy at her best.
Yes.
Marina Sirtis really got a chance to actually stretch her legs and act and emote. And act as a counselor, but in a way that didn't feel very 90s, after school special.
I'm okay. You're okay. We're all okay.
We're all okay.
Drugs are bad, Wesley.
I was literally about to say, how dare you steal that bit?
But they make you feel good.
Make you feel good. When do we get drugs out of right? Yeah, that's
I feel strange, but also good.
By the way, I was I was happy. Okay, the best mega, in my opinion, so far has been the Q Continuum / Scoundrel Mega, because that was so tight thematically. Every week we got a Q. Everyone was different, and so I was. That's my favorite mega to date. But I'm a little sad because we were running out of Q variants, and then it brings to mind that we have drug sniffing Q from what is it? Mission to Farpoint or something. So
yeah.
obviously drug paraphernalia is a big hole that we need to fill in Star Trek timeline.
Well, we've started bringing the kids in now, so that was one of the
the drugs are next. Logical thought.
Natural progression.
Butter and jelly. So one other thing that I feel like we have to bring up every week, because it's becoming more and more prevalent, that, like you say, the Scoundrel Mega was very, very tight thematically. The Hologram Mega, very relatively tight thematically. This has got to be the least tight Mega I've ever seen.
By a lot.
It's so
We've had, 2 caregivers, no new warp theorists, and I don't think, this event, none of these characters have variants. None of them have the traits that they're meant to be with a Mega. It's a very weird Mega. It feels almost a bit like they kind of welded it onto a Voyager Mega and just kind of went after.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a Voyager Mega with 3 so far Voyager crew.
Yeah.
Well, no, only 2 before and after crew, which was Grand Marquess and Dr. Van Gogh. That's all we've had. We're week 2 in, and even the recurring isn't from that episode.
We're not done yet.
Many before and after crew as there are on the Nepenthe crew. And think about that for a minute.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Let's stay on theme with Nepenthe and talk about what is so surprising to me, because Kestra is the super rare, and we have Pizza Riker as a 3-star, which is great in its own way for newer players and someone that likes the art. I was a bit like, oh wow, if he'd have come into the game, I would have been sure he'd been a 5-star or super rare at the least. But here we are, we've got a 3-star. We've got a rare crew, which we actually haven't had in a mega since Humanarium, which was not last mega, the one before, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
So yeah, this is the first sort of new cadet crew, as I sort of call them, in quite a while. But the art is awesome.
There's a super secret spreadsheet that Idle made that so you can sort all the crew by the date that they were released and different metrics and stuff. So I don't know if it's I went back however many months, and we've been averaging one new either rare or uncommon crew per month. So this is probably our one for the month. And I'm going to spoil a little bit art chat if we end up running it at the end of the show. We'll see if we can get to the 4 hours so that Stars can't reclaim his crew. But we actually talked about like the rare art and rarity. Should it be reserved more for these 5-star crew who you get to use every day and look at them a lot? Or should they be more for lower rarity crews so they're easier to get to for everyone? And I think I came in thinking one thing, and after these two guys spoke their piece, I left thinking the other way. So I think that's a good debate to have, because obviously we all want, you know, the people at end game level with big rosters, they want crew that they can use and see all the time. But people that casual people or people that maybe they couldn't do the event that week, they deserve to have, you know, these great art, evocative, as Star's favorite word, evocative crew too. So
that being said, by putting this 3-star card in the ranked rewards, it kind of also makes it simultaneously more difficult to get by looking at Star's roster at the beginning, where he didn't have all the stars for Humanarium. How long is it going to be before he gets the rest of those stars? I mean, yes, it for any of us and for a lot of players that are watching this, it's no great shakes to rank high enough to get all 3 copies of a 3-star card, but that's definitely not everybody.
Quick, also log back in and buy the sites now. And...
He's got enough honor left, or I can get some blue citations for him.
I just saw a comment on the chat which mentioned that maybe Ketra should have been the 3-star and Riker the 4-star. And you know what? I feel like that would have been about right. I don't think anyone would have complained about that. That being said, like, while I definitely do take the point that like Pizza Riker, like, I think it's fair to call him a fan favorite. I always feel weird labeling things that have been out a year fan favorite things. But in the end, if you had him released, what would he have actually been? He probably would have just been like a stat refreshed Chef Riker, and that would have just kind of pissed in the cornflakes of everyone who got Chef Riker 5 out of 5. Because God knows there's only so many med dip size seats in Riker events. So having him be
less than one, most likely.
Less than one. So having him be the 3-star, it all kind of shakes out in the end, because in the end he's gonna join the portal in like, I don't know what, like 9-12 months, depending on when they want to do it, and everyone will have access to him as a thing. I'll get my stars. I might even get my garters at some point.
Boo! Hey, if I can't do it, you can't do it. Come on.
Look, nobody does more dad jokes than I do. You guys can all attest to that. So
that's true.
We've read
and then he high fives himself afterwards. It's pretty.
So yeah, like it's an interesting selection of crew. I feel like we've got a lot of crew that people are happy to see this week, which is always nice. Like we've got 2 Nepenthe, which is like a lot of people's like shining point of Picard. We've got Van Gogh, which is I think probably the most memorable part of Before and After, being honest. And Tholian Prisoner, who is maybe not the most memorable part of In a Mirror Darkly, but certainly I think maybe you also can tell me a bit more about In a Mirror Darkly.
Oh, just before you get into that, the someone that you were referring to in the chat was our last week's guest, Stellar Ice. Us guests have to stick up for each other.
Yeah, she's still hanging around. I thought we gave her the
I'm just going to commit ritual Sudoku. I do actually apologize for that. I just kind of thought, hey, that's a really good thing, and I should have looked at the name and realized, of course, they were saying something intelligent. It was Stella.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so Tholian Prisoner. I don't know why, but I watched the 2-parter episode for the existing crew. And he was only in there for a few minutes, as is common with a lot of crew that we get. But that is an underrated, I think it's underrated, Enterprise episode, and it's really a testament to Scott Bakula's overacting and his jawline, because that whole episode was
tier 1 jawline.
It was. I mean, that should have been the gold item when you build mirror archers, Bacula's jawline. But that's him turned up to 11 in that episode, and it really, Tholian is definitely not the highlight of that episode. But I don't know. Should we recap his role in the episode, or
you want to recap?
Maybe we should recap.
Shall I play the recap reel?
Is
this the moment? I'm going with
segment, baby.
This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. Oh, I can't find it now. Where's it gone? Please hold on. Here we go. We're going live now.
In a world where Latinum is king, 3 men, 1 desire: to share stories that are beyond belief. But what happens when the absurd becomes real? An airlocked in Glatu, appearing in crew quarters, failed voyages, reviving themselves. A Behold, with 3 Lucians, seeing Dilemma Part 3 at hour 6. These and other unbelievable stories that you'll only find here on Timelines Talks episode recap.
There you go.
I hadn't seen that. That's amazing. I know you shouldn't fluff your own stuff, but goddamn.
There's all the filters I could find in Premiere. All of them at once.
That was such a build-up. I was going to do like a 30-second talk about Bullion Prisoner. Well, anyways.
No.
Yeah. I got to get my voice back after doing that live. Yeah, so this is Mirror Universe. By the way, we have tens of thousands of Timelines players. I know there are people out there, maybe they're not watching. When a new crew comes up, we had Mirror Checkoff earlier this week. I know there's people out there. When you get a new crew, they go watch the episode. It's just too much fun not to do it, at least sometimes. So there was Mirror, which I did watch part of that for to refresh my memory for Chekhov's note, and then back to back another Mirror episode. So, like I said, this was a Bacula highlight reel, but the Mirrorverse is going into Tholian territory to find some kind of mysterious ship or whatever. They're very mysterious about it until the second part. And so they go deep into Tholian territory. You get refreshed CGI Tholian spider webs everywhere. It's fantastic. And they take as prisoner a Tholian pilot and throw him in the decon chamber. I wanted to say decon jail. That is so iconic with Enterprise.
That's the one I want to see.
And they have to crank the thermostat up to 480 Kelvin, which is like 400 Fahrenheit for our American viewers, and Celsius people, I don't know. So they start torturing him, interrogating him, and every time he doesn't answer, they turn it down by 50 degrees until at one point they turn it so cold his exoskeleton shatters. And so, like I said, he's only on screen for maybe 2 minutes total. But the episode, if you're one of those people that likes to go back and watch the episodes when you see crew and game, go watch In a Mirror Darkly twice. And if you watch it on Netflix and it asks you to skip the intro, don't do that. It is the best intro maybe in all of episodic Star Trek.
Better than Faith of the Heart?
It's hard to upgrade, but yeah.
But did they answer the most important question about the Tholian prisoner?
Is this going to be a dad joke?
Yeah.
What question, Big?
How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tholian prisoner?
480 Kelvin licks, I guess.
That's why you need the decon gel.
Look, I was giving you guys so much trash. I had to give as good as I got.
Hey man, that's a gold nugget right there.
All right, Idle, you're up next for terrible jokes.
This stream. Anyway, moving on.
It's a zany one. I feel like we've got a zany one on our hands, but it's all right. I like that.
This is the transition into drunk stream. If we do it next week, then things will have lined up.
We will. What we talk about next? What's going on? Shall we move on from Tholian? Let's. Oh, did you not want to talk about?
Oh yeah, actually, if you have that link, if you could throw it in chat.
Do I have that link? That's a good question.
There's a fella on. His name is Peregrine. He's on the Wicked Realm Games forums and Discord, and he's made this great spreadsheet that tracks all of Arena Crew, initialization times, cooldowns, ship stuff, absolutely everything you could think of in regard to skirmishes. And so, yeah, if you're trying to figure out what crew can activate when and for position and all the triggers and stuff, do yourself a favor, go there, and look through there. He's put in a lot of work on that. And actually, when browsing through that, the one ship that, and maybe this is not topical for anyone, because by the time you get 9 or 10 levels of it, you're pretty much endgame. But the Breen Command warship, it's a 5-star ship. It has instant damage, and I think it's the only ship with 2 triggers, position and cloak. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but so it has 2 triggers, instant damage. So if you want to go a little wonky on this skirmish, and just turn on auto battle and have your triggers trigger correctly, then try out the Breen Command warship. But that's a great resource, and I've consulted a lot for the big book and for personally. So
coming from the Breen Tourism Council, try our warships.
Well, they don't have clean air, so there's only so many things that they can offer.
Yeah. Okay, let's come out of the event. I think we've talked about 50 minutes on it. So let's go and have a look at our Tuesday pack, which I will bring the actual pack up on the screen, if I can find out where I put it. There it is. So here's our Tuesday pack, which features new crew, super rare, Mirror Chekhov. I think that was a kind of almost a fan-wanted one to sort of complete the Mirror collection. We've also got Mirror Stamets, Dominatrix Troy, as she is more favorably known by. We have Mirror Archer, how ironic, and Mirror Kalia, and for, I think, the first or second time in an actual 650 pack, Killy, who, just before a skirmish, they release a Killy pack. Very sneaky.
Pretty clever.
Yeah, Ben is at home watching, stroking his mirror goatee right now.
Yeah, we don't know which Ben we interviewed. Was that the real one or the mirror one?
Oh, that's true. Maybe he just shaved for the interview, and that's actually Evil Ben.
Stella says, good deal or bad deal?
All right, yeah. You know what? We should probably just because I'm going to be honest with you. This is not a pack I'd pull. I really want to get Mirror Stamets 5 out of 5. I love the character, I love the art, but these crew are not amazing anymore. They used to be someone like Mirror Troy used to be basically your best option for almost anything back in the day, but her shine has been sort of taken. Killy is looking like she might become a lot less integral to skirmishing.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, now, it may not be your choice whether or not you pull on this pack, so have you thought about that?
I have thought about that. I've also thought about what I'm going to put on your epitaph, and I'm thinking, bitch, might fit. No, you can put that one in the swear jar.
Now, my wife would do the one where you take the cap off the lipstick. And...
for the podcast listeners out there, there was a very graphic visual illustration.
But yeah, actually, I think all of the golds in this pack are trending down and have been for quite a while now.
You can't say that about Killy. She never trends down. How dare you?
Actually, yeah. I'll be the one that stumps for this pack because Killy, she's not, the advantage she gives you is not as great. Fine. She's still plus 10 attack and a nuke in the same package. So if you star her up or sight her up, she's still very, very good for skirmishes. And if you want to be competitive or you just want to save some time, she's still about as good as it gets. Dominatrix Troy. I mean, where to start with that card? There are plenty of reasons. Okay, she's like Bartender Guinan light. She's maybe 85% of Bartender Guinan. So if you've not been lucky with Gauntlet and you want someone with that skill set, she's fine there. She doesn't get a lot of 45%, but she's fine there. Med Voyagers, until recently, have been very difficult to come by. Engmed from Stamets, so there's a little bit of everything in that pack. And considering the JG Lieutenant Junior Grade Martinez pack from last week, if you want to talk about value. Okay, so it can be much worse. So this pack is not that bad. If you're a Mirror fan, I say go for it.
Yeah, I suppose you could do worse, but like all I look at when I look at this pack is I think of when Mirror Stamets debuted, and he was like a lot more shiny back then. I think it was like a year or two ago. Like I always lose track of time, ironically, for a game about timelines.
He was a tier 1 crew for a while.
Yeah, tier 1 or tier 2, I think.
Were we ever that young?
We forecasted a very rosy event future for him because we thought Disco plus Mirror, this is going to be amazing. How could this not be a surefire hit? And woo, right off the cliff.
I think he was also like the third Eng Med crew in the game at the time too. So based on the pace of those releases, based on event pacing, I mean, there's only so much we can go on in terms of predicting the future.
Yeah, and it's just a case of like, he has one of the least desirable combinations since we're talking about Van Gogh. It's Psi Eng Med, which I believe is this thing. It's a case of there's no shortage of good Disco Psi bases. Mirror doesn't get nearly enough event play. It would take that as a condemnation or a wistful plea to Rickard Realms.
More Mirror events, yes.
And I think that's kind of reflective of all these crews. The case of like they're good. They were better in the day, and I'm sure you'd still get quite a bit of value from them, as Automaton says. But I don't know. They like I said, if I had a choice, which I'm sure Automaton will try and stop from happening, it wouldn't be the one I'd pick.
Okay. Shall we have a quick chat about the star of the show, Mirror Chekhov, super rare, which you've already tiered him at a very generous 9. And I've just, very sidetrack, monkey paw moment here. I was just thinking as I whizzed away. So I was saying to you guys in the chat, if we ever get, because Nepenthe is my favorite episode from Picard. Sorry, complete sidetrack. Nepenthe is my favorite episode from Picard. And I said to you guys, if we ever get Pizza Chef Riker, I'd love to write the note, and I've got the perfect idea in my head. Monkey Paw closes, he's a bloody cadet, so I'm writing him anyway. Anyway, Mirror Chekhov, go on.
Well, you know what? I think it's very, very indicative that, like, you were like, let's talk about Mirror Chekhov, and then you immediately sidetracked into something way more interesting because...
yes, tier 9's superstar, Mirror Chekhov.
Yeah.
Tier 9.5, let's be honest.
Yeah, let's be real.
Is that scaling down or up?
I started pulling out names that would compare favorably, and if I could open Discord without my computer crashing, I would find that list of names. But names like Lieutenant Tara, good security base, very, very inconsistent event work, but has a few good traits. So that's kind of where he was at. Chekhov, I think, has 5 events over the course of almost 5 years of gameplay. So you're looking at very thin, regular work. He's a freeze and forget, basically. I mean, that's just what he is. But there are worse freeze and forgets out there.
Yeah. Well, it just sort of makes me laugh because I don't know if we probably have like a few good readers of the big book here, but over the last few weeks, we've been like slowly refreshing all the notes. And while I was doing that, it's a case of, oh yeah, there's all these Mirror crew. It's a case of something like Mirror Kayla Detmer and Mirror Reed, who looks like David Coveney, as he is famously coined. And then you sort of like get these like diminishing returns like Mirror Sulu and Mirror Erlen Landry. And it's a case of there is absolutely no shortage of command set crew for Mirror. There is so many of them. And it's like, guess what? Like, he's not bottom of the barrel Mirror Cisco, who I don't think you'd thought even for a Cisco event. But as you said, it's like Chekhov doesn't get that much event work. You know, anyone who isn't like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy just doesn't get a lot of variance. So, like basically, like tier 9.5, we're being generous and hoping that he gets a bit more work in the future.
Well, and the reason that you have to give him a tier, or at least what my argument was that if and when he catches an event bonus, he will be useful. The bases are good enough that he will make shuttles, as opposed to someone like, say, Mirror Archer or Mirror Cisco, where even with an event bonus, they're probably not even cracking a requisition shuttle.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Stars. You know I love you. You're one of my best friends in this game. So last week we talked about Crew 2 unfreeze for the Caregiver Warp Theorist trait, and Bridge Officer Troy's name came up. She was, and even though she was ranked number 1 for Med and Command in whatever
4 stars. Yeah.
Okay, in the 4 stars, even with a number 1 ranking, those bases just weren't high enough. So Captain Idle unfroze her, and he said he didn't use her once. And of course, your mileage varies on how fleshed out your roster is. But
I did have a million Janeways, so that might have been why.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, like you say, your mileage will vary, but it's a case of I did preface that thing with a lot of those crew and a lot of the crew are kind of just bad. These existing poolers, these bases are so low, like 600, 700s. In the case of, you have to kind of find that sweet spot and go, where is a base usable in an event? And then you kind of look at your roster and think, how much of this particular bonus pool do I actually have?
Has anyone worked out, let's say you had a Cisco event and you go, right, I'll pull out Mirror Cisco. Has anyone worked out the actual statistical bonus he would get and whether there's a crew just with their base without a bonus would actually be better? Is that a kind of situation you find in sort of the upper echelons of SRs?
That's something that I used to do for back when there were far fewer crew in the game. You look at someone, either someone an all-star like Professor Sato or a Mega who had a very easy to acquire base, and you look at, okay, where's the breakpoint where crew below this, even with a 2 times bonus for factions, it would still be below this normal non-bonus crew. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yeah, Mirror Cisco is way down on that list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything more on this guy in front of me right now? Mirror Chekhov.
This guy, yeah.
His name's right there.
I called him Mirror Sulu like 6 times this week, which tells you how memorable he was.
I mean,
and off he goes.
The art's pretty fantastic. I
will say that it's nice to look.
Actually,
at. That good malevolent grin.
He's got this great scene, and it's like his only scene other than the agony booth. He follows Kirk into the turbo lift. They go down a few decks, and then as the turbo lift door enters, he springs his trap. He has Chekhov has henchmen waiting to ambush Kirk. And the henchman smacks Kirk in the mouth, and as he pulls his hand back, you see this little red marker that has been drawn on his face because that's supposed to be blood. And Mirror Sulu's scar is like the worst prosthetic you've ever seen. But of course, we're watching this now in high definition. So back then, 60s black and white covered a multitude of sins. But yeah, so Chekhov ambushes him, and then, of course, he didn't judo chop hard enough, so Kirk outsmarts him and throws him in the agony booth. So it's another great episode, but the crew is forgettable.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just have to point out, so they get in the tow lift together, and then they go a few decks down together, huh?
I thought it was Idle's turn for badge. Well, it is Pride Month, so.
And with that, off he goes. Bye-bye, Chekhov. Never to be seen until a portal update.
Timelines Talks After Dark.
So we checked him off of the list.
Oh my god! Please. Please stop.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of every time I go over to my parents' place. It's like a case of. My stepmother always mentions, oh man, your father, he always gets so much more immature when you're around. It's like he has to perform for you, and it's like, I'm seeing it right here, right now among these dads, and it's like, man, it's a beautiful thing to say.
There's a great image I saw online. It's like, when you become a father, you just bestowed all the energy of the dad jokes. I quite like that. That was quite apt. From Mirror Universe dad jokes to we've kind of done, I'm sort of looking through our show notes, we've kind of done our recaps. Is there anything more you wanted to say about Before and After Nepenthe or your Enterprise episode? No? Cool. Right.
I think we've covered
what episode was that?
We've covered
what have I got here? Bob, we were going to talk. We were going to talk about Before and After, maybe a little bit Nepenthe, but I think we've all said how much we love that episode, and you've said enough about Enterprise. So let's move on.
I've got page 6 through 12 of the Suspiria rant. If we want to continue that.
No, we have had the cease and desist.
Someone asked last week. They're like, I want to know what Otto said when Idle muted his audio. I'm like, okay, first of all, that was a bit. We're here to entertain you guys. But secondly, I actually did rant beyond that, and it was about skill sets and all that stuff. So.
One thing
if you want to hear more, if you want to see the entire transcript of that run, send an email to
send £5 by post to PO Box 356. We were talking a few weeks back about the Phlox and the Saru birthday packs, and there was someone else, wasn't there, where they gave away a Odo, that's right. Yes, and that was the 650 pack. We were talking about other possible birthday packs that could appear, and one birthday in particular this week on, I believe, and I'm quoting someone else here, it was July 22nd, would have been hang on, let me just turn the scanner off and turn the Tuvok on. Tim Russ's birthday this week. Do we think, and this is pure supposition, nothing known at all, we might get a birthday pack, and who is good out of the possible Tuvoks that you might like to see?
Eevee suit.
Oh, low blow.
Just rolls off the tongue for you, doesn't it?
People are turning the stream off in disgust, those sons.
Just give everybody one and just be done with it.
Yeah. So these are a selection of interesting crew. And you know what? One out of these four I actually do find interesting. So Marquis Tuvok is sort of like a bottom shelf, I think that's fair to say, Sec-Fi Voyager. Warship Tuvok is your kind of standard command sec, instant damage, although I think he's got he comes with a little thing that says warning used with trigger or whatever. And you got Bartender, who I think he debuted, and we were all like, Tim Russ rocks. Tim Russ rocks. Tim Russ rocks. No, that's a tongue twister. A tuxedo like nobody's business, and everybody looks good in a white tux. But he's dip primary, and I'm sure that someone who is going to cite him because you need to finish all these Vulcans, but he's not a very inspiring crew. The only one out here that I would actually pull for is Resilient Tuvok, just because, hey man, live long and prosper, especially if you need some top up your end sec. He's probably going to be my personal next Vulcan to cite up. It's a case of when I get my honor back, auto. Yeah,
well, he came along. Resilient Tuvok, by the way. I mean, he came along in that big run of Engsec crew, yes. And he was a Psi tertiary, I believe.
Yes,
did I have that right? Yeah, and that sort of set him apart a little bit from a lot of the other crew that came around that time. So it could get him on some seats on some voyages that other Engsecs couldn't, and I think that's a good thing.
Ironically, though, probably one of the most boring arts in the game. I understand there wasn't much to go off based on the episode. He's blinded, and that's sort of the crux of his story there and his interaction with Janeway. But oh man, it's just so boring.
If you did not know in advance that he could not see, you would not be able to tell from that art.
Yeah. I think he's colloquially referred to as blind Tuvok, which I understand why they want to be a little more PC with that, but at least then you would kind of know, well, he didn't get blinded very often, so you'd know where he came from. Which, by the way, are we getting ahead of ourselves assuming that it's going to be golds? Because they were sort of trending downward with rarity, and I know when Ben was here, he said one of the factors is how many golds does this character have, which he has enough, so maybe we do get 3, but are there any 4 stars worth looking at?
I think Assimilated's definitely of the...
Assimilated still sort of sits at the top of the pile. He's got that bit of arena damage. He's got those dual collections, decent sec base for Borg, Vulcan, and Tuvok events. He held down my arena setup for a long time.
And talking about what Otto was talking about earlier, he has long duration attack boost too. So
I think it's 18 seconds or something.
Yeah.
He's a long laster. Disguised Tuvok, not amazing. Hey man, stamina, it's important in a man.
Oh my God. Please crash.
You got Disguised Tuvok. Bases aren't amazing, but he's like a nice little early game gauntlet throw in. Again, every Tuvok is good just for the collection value, which is Eevee suit. And then you've got, 2 Vics if you want to fuse that monstrosity. He counts. Can you imagine if they threw 2 Vics into a Behold? That'd be very interesting.
2 Vics, EV suit, and 1-star ensign, right?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate. Is that the ultimate Behold?
I'd fall on it.
But EV suit still 1%.
I definitely would like to see it, just because I have Resilient Tuvok at 2 out of 5, and having more styles on him. You can never have too many NSEC. Like, we got a lot of them. And we're still getting them, like Bounty Hunter Mud and EV Suit Nan. They seem to be taking efforts to make sure that the skill set is consistently filled out. But Resilient Tuvok is still one of the better options, especially because he's still attached to a main cost variant. So he'd be the one I'd pull. I don't know about you guys. Would you take a pull on any of these fine gentlemen?
I'd go for Resilient, definitely. But,
I'll take my detour quick because this was something that sort of came to mind earlier. There's this dichotomy between event crew and good stats now crew. And the good stats now crew you use way more than event crew. Sometimes you only get 1 faction a year out of even main cast crew. So, you have to weigh which one is more important. But as a crew ages, they get down to Voyage 100, Voyage 200, Voyage 250, base rank 40 or whatever. You stop using them daily, but if they are main cast and you fuse them over the years, they still get consistent, even if infrequent, values. So, like we asked Stellar Ice last week, if you can get a crew all in one package, which I think Resilient Tuvok is, his stats may not be top shelf anymore, but yeah, if you can get everything in one package like Resilient Tuvok, then go for it, because even as he ages, he'll still have value down the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Apologies for throwing off your setup there. So one thing before we continue on, I feel like I have to express my deepest feelings of validation, because in the chat, I'm going to mention them by name. Prime Loca at 10FH says, I thawed Bridge Officer Troy. I had to run 14 plus shuttles before she got a seat. And you know what? Validation.
14.
Nothing like it. Someone got value out of it. That's all I need.
There you go. All right. Let's move on from that long discussion about a pack that might not exist. We're going to address a question, one of the questions from Picard Loves Reds, and we have to apologize, Picard Loves Reds, because you sent us this question, I think, show 2? Or many weeks ago, before we got, an influx of celebrity guests. So we're going to read at least one part of your question today before I think we end the show and go on to our art chat section. So
this is that Saving Private Ryan, Matt Damon aging gif. Where like, when was episode 2? 19 something.
Yeah, it was 1994, I think. Anyway, so from Picard Loves Red, he says, "What is the ideal range of slots needed to enjoy all facets of gameplay without having to freeze/unfreeze excessively?" So it's part 1. Well, he's got 2 questions, so I thought we'd address that one first.
I'm not confident in my ability to do a non-offensive Stellar Ice impression, so I'm just going to say, speaking for Stellar Ice, as many as you can get, because they pour all the dilithium they get into crew slots.
Well, here's the thing. A little bit of behind the show. We actually did, the 3 of us, record a segment where we answered this question. That may or may not ever see the light of day, leaning towards not now. But my answer then was that I had 280 crew slots, and I generally had probably 30 to 40 open at any time, and I never felt compelled to buy slots. That answer seems to be changing now. I'm getting closer and closer to having a full boat most of the time. So I may be looking to buy some slots in the near future, which is something that I have not done. I don't think I've bought crew slots in at least a couple of years. So the answer for me looks like it's getting closer to 300. Just adding more and more 1 of 5s and 2 of 5s that you can't fuse. And this is with me. My personal roster makeup is I don't have any purples that aren't event bonuses. Like I just froze all of my warp theorists and caregivers because the faction section's over, and I'm still near the top of my crew rank. So the answer is more than I thought. More slots than I thought.
If you need some help with interior design, I can log on your account, and I know exactly which crew to free up some space.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will make sure and not do that.
You're smarter than me, Ben. You're smarter than me. So I'm actually in a very similar kind of position to Big here, where it's a case of I think I have around about 270 slots. And when I had all my caregivers and warp theorists unfrozen, not that it did me any good, I didn't manage to snag a copy of Dodge in the event. I was hitting, I think, maybe like 5 slots away from full. And it's because I personally can't airlock a 1 out of 5. I know I should, especially if it's someone garbage. Like, and if I were to get Admiral Cartwright, I would hang on to him because it's a case of it goes against my player ethos, as it were.
You're talking to someone that has a Shinzon and a Torazial and a now 2-starred Silva LaForge on their roster
Silva.
right now. Yeah.
Silva's the one. And it's a case of, I don't know, in the end it comes down to a push or shove of, do you want to spend dilithium on crew slots and or maybe hope that they'll add some more free as they do with the things? Or do you want to start hitting that on up in your and be like, you know what? Silver LaForge, you ain't doing anything for me. Bang, out the airlock you go.
Okay, how esoteric is your hobby when the name Silva LaForge comes up and everyone's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So in the Timelines Talks Annex, which is getting very dusty by now, like Big said, we do have that recording, and I think what I said then, which hopefully still holds true, is it depends on how many packs you pull. If you're pulling, if you're a big spender or you just started and you want to try to catch up to other people and you're spending, and you have, 100 premium packs sitting there. Not that anyone would have such an absurd number sitting around.
Crazy. It's ridiculous. Who would do that? Anyway.
The more you pull, the more you need crew slots. So if you have the self-control to say, okay, I'm bumping up against the limit, maybe I should stop pulling, then you have an easier time. If you don't have self-control and you keep pulling, and you're going to have to, put more of your dilithium income toward that. So a lot of it is self-control and a lot of it is spending limits. So
yeah. And I feel like also, it really does force you to look at some of, if you're like me and you had a mentality of, there's no reason for me not to sight up this, Mega Legendary. Someone like Cole of House Core or Thrax, where it's a case of, for younger rosters, maybe they have some use. But for me personally, it's a case of I only ever use those two in particular when everyone is out on voyages. I've done all my shuttles, and then it's a case of if I have an event going, maybe they will find a seat because what they offer is so common. And the fact of the matter is a case of you get a periodic refresh of that kind of crew with Suspiria or with, whichever one you want to go with. In the case of, it really does force you to be a bit more cutthroat, even if not with airlocking, but with freezing.
We've lost Auto again.
I shouldn't have said the word.
He said the S word, which we don't say on stream anymore. It occurs to me, he asks the ideal range of crew slots. I think we've had one number pop up. So I'm just going to say low 200s for me.
Yeah, I'd say that's
200, 210, 220, I think is probably plenty if you're willing to keep the purples in the freezer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too many. Maybe I'm a whale, but
Yeah, the boring, vague answer is what it depends on what point of the game you're at. If you're in the early game, you really don't need that many because chances are you've got a few greens and that's about it. But as time goes on and you start getting 1 out of 4s, 1 out of 5s, it becomes a bit more untenable. In this case of, I think Idle is a bit more sort of renowned for this, where it's a case of, where he had to just airlock a ton of purples and stuff, because they will come around again eventually. Yeah. Same kind of mentality that you have with blues and greens. Case of when you want them, they will eventually come back to you. But gold is a bit more of a different prospect. That's a conversation to have in about a year when we have even more 1 out of 5s clogging up our rosters, I'm sure.
I think a lot of that is picking your events. And it's something I say to sort of players that now then they start to creep up, new players, they creep up to start doing events for the first time. You have to say to them, you don't need to 1/500 every one. You look at the crew. If you want them either for their stats or their art, fine. If you're just going it for the sake of it, just for collection, you don't need to do it. There's nearly 900 crew in this game. There have been some people that have collected them all, but that's another breed.
Yeah. And you can only run, 12 on a voyage at one time, and can only send out 4 shuttles at a time. It's not that much.
Yeah, which by the way is why we caution against common skill sets, because like you said, when you get refreshed power like Suspiria or whatever the next flavor of the month crew is, the old ones you have just won't find work. They'll have to wait for event bonuses.
Yeah. Okay, part 2 of Picard's question was, how do you typically spend your honor/sites? One at a time, all at once to instant immortalize? Or how much honor do you typically hoard/keep in reserve for the perfect crew to drop or the next honor sale?
Boy, that answer was different about an hour ago, wasn't it?
I can answer that for 2 of us, actually. Okay.
For the podcast listeners, Stars is pulling a face.
I'm resisting the urge to scream is what I'm doing.
This answer is BS and AS, meaning before sale and after sale, because I think we all had different strategies before we had these honor sales start. And so now that they have, compared to normal citations, great value, you can get the citation and behold and all at a discount. It comes down to, okay, if you have campaigns, you have a little more citations to play with. If you just don't have the patience, I understand it was like a year between the last 2, or the only 2 that we've had. So again, that's sort of another play style question. It's a cop-out, but for me personally, since I do buy campaigns, that is my limit. If I can't set them up with campaign citations, then they don't get cited up, and I save every drop of honor for the sale because it's good value and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for me personally, it's a case of the She Who Shall Not Be Named is a very special case. Where it's a case of this is not something that happens very often. It's a case of like an actually almost perfect crew drops in your lab, 1 out of 5 from the port, and you think, I've got 200k honor, I could do this. And you look at your voyage rankings, and you look at your sort of event prospects, and you go, this would make a real long-lasting, tangible effect on my roster. She would make voyages, she would make shuttles, she'll do everything backwards and heels for you. And it's very rare that a crew comes along like that. Like, unless like Gary 7 drops next week at 1 out of 5, I can't really recommend that you do this for many crew. And as you say, it's a case of like a holding pattern almost for an honor sale. But before it, I used to always just go for instant gratification of 50k honor. Okay, I'm throwing a sight on someone. And it was my philosophy then was half of the reason that people play this game, and in my opinion anyway, is that you need to see a tangible difference in your crew week to week, day to day. Otherwise, what's the point? You're just like watching a counter go up in the end. In this case of, to enjoy the game in a long-term fashion, you treat yourself. Actually, just like cite someone for fun. You know what? Like, I don't know if we have any viewers in who might have read about it, but there was like on a suicide pact where we all picked a crew that was like objectively not the best, and then some of us did better than others. I think Otto's was Trelane, mine was Delta Fly Paris, and I won in that bargain. So F you. And it's games like this are what actually make the game for me, because it's a case of, if I hadn't had that honor suicide pact, I wouldn't have had Delta Fly Paris getting 4 event bonuses in a row and going, you know what, he's like, he doesn't make voyages anymore, but the fact matter is he's a bit of an event stud. And you wouldn't have stuff like, hey, I really, really, really want to finish Age of Sail Worf because I'm a big Worf fan. I got him 3 out of 5 in an event. I want to immortalize this occasion. And it's stuff like that will actually keep you coming back to the game and keep you from burning out. So you need to spend your honor wisely, but don't be afraid to spend it just because of what might be over the hill.
To make money, you got to spend money.
It's true.
Yeah, I wish I had the the discipline that Otto seems to have, because since the honor sale, and it's not overstating it to say that, I mean, it was a seismic difference in how honor is spent before and after the sale. I have gotten up to, because while the honor sale was going on, we were talking about it and how things are going to change. They're like, well, we can't spend a drop of honor till the next sale because it's too valuable now. It was valuable before. Now it just went up exponentially in value. But I have saved up to 300,000 honor twice and spent it twice because stuff has just come up and it's like, oh no, I got to do this now. But the one thing about that honor sale is we don't know if it's coming back. We assume that something like it is going to come back, but we don't know if it's coming back. And if it does come back, what the form is going to be. Is it going to be this bonkers bananas thing that they had last time? Or is it going to be more like it was the first time where it was just, oh, you could buy a discounted big old. You could buy a 10X pack for honor. Because if you save up, 1.5 million honor all year long, just keeping your crew in styrofoam, waiting for this honor sale to come,
mint
and then
condition.
And it's just this kind of lame version of an honor sale. You are going to feel ripped off for doing all of that for a year. So I think you have to kind of find a middle ground where it's like, have some progress. If you buy campaigns, that's a good start. And actually that's what has happened to me is I would get to the end of a campaign. I would have that gold citation, and then I would have a crew that I put the first one on. I was like, you know what? Let's just finish it. I've got the rest of the honor right here. Let's just finish it off right now. And that's happened to me several times. It's it's like Lay's potato chips. You can't cite just one.
So boring.
No, plug there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, non-sponsor. You get a free.
How much are they paying you for? Are you going to rent out billboard space on the Chrome Dome or what?
Yeah, it'll be 5 head for sale.
You know what I thought previous to this thing that maybe I was gonna format a reputation as the shouty and the blur one. It's like, no, I think now the reputation is starting to crystallize and everyone is starting to realize just what kind of a person Automaton is.
Behind the timelines talks. The real Automaton.
Make it like American Idol where people can, text in their votes and kick me off the show. That's fine.
We won't miss you. We would miss you. We'd miss you. So yeah, in terms of the thing, it's a case of it does depend on obviously how much. It depends on your honor intake as well. It's because not everyone is making 8-hour voyages. Not everyone is getting 4 copies of an event twice a week from existing crew layer ahead things. So, it depends on how. And it's also a case of this isn't even factoring the case of, do you want to go with Kahless? Do you think that Captain Beverly Picard is the love of your life? These are other honor expenditures and stuff like, Beverly Picard, you can have that conversation. But Kahless, I think, is still one of those where it's like, he's expensive. He's really expensive. But for most people, I think they'd say he's still worth it.
I'm still on the edge of biting the bullet on him. I kind of just keep looking at it thinking, I see him in so many gauntlet pairs, but I hate gauntlets, so...
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It depends on what you prioritize in your game. In this case, if you play a lot of Gauntlet, you're probably going to see more use out of Kahless than you will out of whatever 1 out of 5 you might get in an honor sale of gold down the road.
Yeah,
it ends up being a case of you can't endlessly strategize for the long game. You have to play the short game at some time.
Yeah.
Idle, how do you spend your honor? Because you've been doing these pack opening streams 100 at a time. That honor really adds up quick for you.
Like you said, I set a baseline of 400k, so I've got myself up to that 400k, and now every 50k I earn above that will go to a site. So I've kind of got that level sitting there just in case. I am spending the new stuff in, so it's I've just reached my zero up a little bit more just in case. If someone truly magical comes along, then I might be tempted to say I'll chuck a couple on there, but it's a waiting game.
I think that's a good happy medium to where you're ready to have a good bit of fun if an honor sale comes. Yeah. But Oh yeah, but also
Five
yeah,
Shinzons. Yes.
Finally, the day has come.
The clone mega will be yours. You'll be the one person.
Yeah, you'll have that Riemann mega on lockdown.
I'll unfreeze Viceroy now.
I like to have my fun only once a year, please.
I'm just gonna let that one hang. That one needs no elaboration.
So yeah, we think of funny, clever names to title the episode when they go up on podcast or YouTube or whatever. This is going to be Timelines Talks. Otto was a dick.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely the Always Sunny title, right? The one where Otto was a dick.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Speaking of, shall we wrap it up, gentlemen? We're gonna air our art talk section now, which is Otto, Stars, and Big talking about the art. If you guys can't stick around for that, it will be on YouTube. Hopefully, not too long after it finishes here. But from myself, from Otto, from Stars, and thank you, Big, for joining us. I hope you can come and join us again soon. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
we'll get Garrick on here as well.
Oh,
We'll have the full Big Book team ready to cause trouble.
Actually, I got to do a quick intro for Big because when we recorded this, we weren't sure where it was going to be. And so the background, and maybe you can give him 30 seconds to talk himself up, but he's been working on the Big Book with us for over a year. I loved reading his notes. There was a point where I took months off. Always good to take breaks from time to time. And so he managed the Big Book by himself and wrote fantastic notes. So even though he's a really busy guy these days, and we're lucky to have him when we can, whenever he gets to write a note, it's a treat for me to read it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Big up the Big.
But Stars, I still hate his guts. So.
It all comes out. Guess what? A bit of healthy, argumentative, and hatefulness. It keeps the conversation going.
Yes.
Love you
Absolutely.
guys.
Bants, mate, bants. Right, I'm gonna mute us. Give me 5 seconds to do this, and it's bye-bye from me, bye-bye from these guys. Enjoy our post-show. Have fun.